It's great to see you all today at our second to final webinar for resolutions. We'll get started shortly just so people can have some more time to attend. But again, it's great to see you all today and thank you for coming. All right, everybody, it's 4:35, so I think it's safe to say we can get started. It's great to see you all here today. Like I said earlier, I'm really happy a lot of people are excited about resolutions and are continually attending our webinars, seeing that this is our second to last one and our last one that is not mandatory and going over different aspects of resolutions and not just Parley Pro training for GA. But enough of that. Let's get right into it. I'm going to share my screen. Bingo. Cool. So in this resolution, as our promotion efforts have shown, we'll go over just resolutions review and how you should be thinking about reviewing your resolution, seeing that we are coming up to the deadline, which we'll get to later on. But let's begin. So just a couple housekeeping rules before we get started. For view, the best view is via the presenter view by clicking on the icon in the right-hand corner and selecting presenter view. For recording, this webinar will be recorded and posted on the SSCCC YouTube, the link of which we will provide at the end of this webinar. Also, with live transcript, it will be enabled per request, and it already is enabled. So for all of our participants who are hard of hearing, that will alleviate that. And for questions, all questions will be entertained at the end of the webinar, but we will entertain questions. Do not worry. But let's begin. So is your resolution ready? We're getting near the deadline. Resolutions, hopefully you guys have been working on them. You've been working with your friends on them, maybe different people on your ASOs. You have drafts ready, and maybe you're even thinking, this thing is ready. The delegates are going to love this. I'm going to submit it now. Pump the brakes. That's great. You feel confident about your resolution? That's awesome. But be sure that you edit it. You have to edit it if you really want to ensure that it will be successful at GA. And you want to make sure that it has all the characteristics of good resolutions that we've covered in prior webinars. So to make sure that your resolution does have that, let's review them just really quick. So the basics, be sure that your resolution demonstrates these before you submit it, all right? So clarity, your argument should be able to be clearly discerned. The delegate shouldn't be wondering like, I don't really know what this resolution means. Like, what issue is it trying to address? Should be clear solution, clear problem. Concise. Too many words can make your resolution hard to understand. So make sure that when you are looking at your resolution, it's not over wordy. It doesn't drag on about specific things. It's clear, concise, and to the point. And building off that, make sure it is thought out. The best resolutions identify a relevant issue and provide a feasible solution to it. Remember, the SSCCC works to address issues within a confine of specific issues, right? Related to California community college students. So if your resolution is trying to address a problem, like you want to stop the forest fires of the world, like it needs to be centered on specific issues that we as an organization can address and provide certain solutions that we as an organization can implement. Remember, the SSCCC cannot go to war. We can't create our own police department or anything like that. We can advocate for things in the legislature as well as do other things that are within our purview, which we have covered in previous resolutions. In previous webinars. So be sure that you have a relevant issue and a feasible solution to it. But moving on, so editing your resolution. Even if your resolution clearly demonstrates all of the previous qualities, it is still important you edit it to secure passage at General Assembly. Sometimes there are mistakes that you just can't pick up, which editing will pick up. Editing is necessary for good writing. It allows us to reconsider our argument to ensure it is grounded in rational principles and clean up any typos. Just a good way to make sure that everything is spotless and ready to go. And I really like this quote. This is one of my favorite professors at my school at College of the Redwoods in Eureka, California. Professor Ryan Emenaker, the chair of political science. The best writers are the best editors. And honestly, taking this class, that could not be more true. And just thinking about it more broadly, that is probably one of the most true statements ever said about writing. Editing is so crucial to it because it allows us to ensure that our writing is really rock solid and ready to persuade any audience that we submit it to. But we in the resolutions committee, we thought, okay, editing is good. We want to make sure that resolution authors edit their resolutions, but what should we have them focusing on? What techniques should we have them employ for them to edit their resolutions? So we got all these different ideas and we thought, okay, these are ideas. How are we going to put these in our webinar so they can understand them? So we separated them into 3 categories. 1, verbal editing. This includes reading your resolution aloud, not just in your head, as well as some other verbal techniques, right? External editing. This you don't do. You let other people do, right? It's external to yourself. It's not personal. It's not internal. You're letting others look at your resolution and say, you might not want to fix that. You might want to put this here. You might want to change that, right? Because sometimes your eyes are not the best eyes. As much as I'd like to think they are for myself, I very generally miss things that other people get. And also the final one, absent editing. So after you finish your resolution, let time pass before you return to edit. And we're going to cover all the merits of these 3 techniques right now. So let's start. Verbal editing. What is verbal editing? Well, like we just said, reading your essay aloud instead of mentally reading it. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm reading an essay in my head, I'm kind of just like going over the words, and it's really just like an affirmation of what I've already written. It's not really like, hey, I'm trying to like get everything. I'm kind of just reading it in my head so I can have that personal validation that I looked at it and now I feel fine to submit it. But very often when I read it aloud, I see a lot of, oh, there should be a the there. Oh, that sentence doesn't really make sense. Verbal editing allows us to do things that our mind cannot do. So the advantage is it catches mistakes that you do not get when you mentally read it, right? So like I just said, when you mentally read, sometimes you just glaze over everything because you're just ready to submit it and you don't want to edit it anymore. You're done. You want to get it out of your headspace. You want to stop stressing about it. Verbal editing forces you to read every little bit, because when you read aloud, you have to read every little bit or else you're just like missing, your mind doesn't connect every word. I'm kind of getting off track, but it just allows you to read every word. It forces you to read every word. Also, it tests the validity of your argument. So a lot of times when I'm verbally editing, certain sentences and certain arguments that I'm making, they don't really make sense once I start reading them. I'm like, oh, this made sense in my head when I was just trying to submit it and everything, but now it doesn't sound that good, right? So verbal editing allows you to test the validity of your argument in that way. But it also prepares you to better support your argument during debate. Once we get to General Assembly, you're going to have to support your resolution once we get into debate and if it becomes debatable. And this is such a crucial skill, because if you don't have that persuasive ability in your resolution, if you just like think it's all good in your head and like, oh, the delegates are going to love this, but when you try and explain it to other people's and you can't, you're not going to get passed. But we want your resolution to get passed. And verbal editing will allow you to speak clearly about it, not just in your head. You'll actually have to enunciate your argument, which will just increase the likelihood of you being able to pass your resolution at GA. So that's verbal editing. But let's move on to external editing. So like we said before, it's having someone else or multiple people, like a group review, read your resolution. The advantages: it's a different pair of eyes to catch mistakes you may have missed. So a lot of times when I'm reading, and I know I reference myself a lot, but I assume that everybody else experiences this as well whenever they're editing a piece of writing. Sometimes you can't catch mistakes that others can. When it goes back to verbal editing, when we're focused on something, we don't really see everything. We're focusing on the broader argument. We're not looking at little typos and everything. Like when I get my essays back, sometimes like my professor, Mr. Emenaker, he'll just add in, one of his edits will be a the. Like, did I really miss a the? That really makes it harder to discern what my argument is. So having those other people read it allows you to, or allows them to catch mistakes you can't, and you may have missed because you're so focused on just submitting it and getting it done so it's out of the way. But it also, outside input also increases the quality of your resolution. Sometimes other people have ideas that help strengthen your resolution. And it's not that you're taking their ideas, it's that they're helping you. They are helping support the quality of your resolution by subjecting it to outside input, right? And that leads into our second point. It subjects your argument to someone other than yourself. My another great quote that my professor said always was, as writers, we think everything that we write is really good. And I've definitely felt that before when I've felt, wow, this essay is so good. My professor's going to love this. And then I get it back. It's a really bad grade. We have preconceived notions sometimes of ourselves, and that's just a human trait. But allowing other people to read our writing helps eliminate that bias towards ourselves, and ultimately is what is going to happen at GA. You're going to be subjecting your argument to other people, and not everybody is going to have the same thought as you. So you got to make sure that you come prepared with all the different retorts, all the different counter arguments addressed and addressed in your resolution, so you have a better likelihood of being passed at GA. But moving on, now absent editing. What is it? Letting time pass before you come back to edit your resolution. Sometimes when we're writing, we get so zoned into it, it just like becomes hard for us to continually review it because we're just going over the same thing over and over and over. And we have the same mindset when we're sitting down in our chair for like 5 hours editing something. Sometimes just step away. It feels so good. The advantage is it allows you to come back to your resolution with a clear mind. We get so focused in our writing whenever we're editing it, it doesn't become editing anymore. It just becomes reading over and over and over, not actual critique, right? Coming back to your resolution, say after a day, 2 days, a week, allows you to think about other things, let your mind go other places, and come up with ideas that you can't come up within like the hour or day that you spend editing your resolution, because your mind's in one space. But when you allow your mind to go other places, it really helps you just gain other ideas and gain other just arguments that you might want to add to your resolution to help support it. But it also decreases stress towards your resolution. So resolutions, we all really want them to be passed because they're issues that we care about, right? We want these issues to be addressed, so we know that those being afflicted by it, well, their lives will be made better. And that's a super gratifying feeling. But we stress about it because if it doesn't get passed, then we won't be able to fulfill that. But coming back to your resolution and not stressing about it continually for days and days and days out of days really allows you to come back with a clear mind, and it emphasizes the previous advantage of just coming back with a clear mind, ready to go to work and not stressing about it. And all of this enhances your editing ability. You see other things that you didn't see before and was like, oh, I missed that, because you have that clear mindset. Maybe your argument, again, is lacking in some areas. Clear mind allows you to see that and then fix it. But additional techniques, those are the three main ones. And those are the ones we really want you to emphasize once we go into breakout groups. But these are editing practices on the screen right now will also improve the quality of your resolution. So using different applications. I know I've used Word before, I've used Doc before, like I'm sure, or Word and Doc are the same thing. If you use Google Docs before, or yeah, Google Docs and Word, that's what I meant. Sometimes they pick up different mistakes as applications. They all have like their little autocorrect function. sometimes they pick up different things. So maybe if you write it in Docs originally, copy and paste it, put it in Word, see if it gets anything before you submit it, even if it's just a little small thing. Because this can really help ensure perfect grammar and spelling, which is also crucial to making sure that your resolution gets passed, because it just shows professionality and the basic good skills of writing. Or print it out. Printing your resolution out and taking handwritten notes will increase your ability to notice mistakes by introducing an enhanced mind-to-paper connection. Now, what does that mean? Mind-to-paper sounds kind of hippie-ish. I don't really know if there's any merit to that. Well, let me explain it. So when you put pen to paper, skin to paper, you generally feel something more than just typing on a computer. I know I do. I know not everybody's the same, and this might be an individual approach for others to use and not a skill that everybody can employ. But nonetheless, printing it out and just like using a red pen and just trying to pick at every little thing physically will really, for some, and I want to recognize this isn't for everybody, but sometimes for people, it allows them to see that they couldn't see before, see things that they couldn't see before. And like the other advantages of the editing techniques we've gone over before, seeing things that you didn't see before will clean up your resolution and just enhance its quality overall. I'm sure you've seen just me going over these different editing techniques that they all have the general outcome. They all help clean up everything, subject your argument to rigorous testing to make sure it's valid. So even though they all are different, they all have the same outcome of trying to enhance the quality of your resolution, even though they have different methods. But printing it out might be your method. It might not be. This may be an individual approach, but I definitely know it's worked for some people and it's worked for me before. So there's no use in not trying. But those are all the editing techniques that we thought would be best to share with you. They've been super helpful for all the committee members who said, wow, these are really helpful. I think we should include these in the webinar. But congratulations, you now have the skills to effectively edit your resolution. Those are verbal editing, saying your resolution aloud to make sure you catch every little mistake. You really allow the argument of your resolution to be tested by like actual cohesive speaking, right? External editing, let other people read it. Other people sometimes see things that you can't. And absent editing, coming back with your resolution, with a clear mind, ready to edit, and not in that same bogged down mood that you are when you just edit it for 5 hours a day, right? So those are the main ones we wanted to cover, as well as the additional ones. But now we're going to move into breakouts. So like the general theme of most of our webinars, we usually use the information we learn in the presentation and then apply it to a different resolution that we see in a breakout. And that's what we're going to do today. And yes, I'll do that. And we're going to split up into breakouts. And let me show you guys who your breakout leaders were going to be. So unfortunately, our regional affairs director from Region 5, Aaron, he cannot attend today. He had a family emergency. But we do have Paul and Victor and myself as well. So they all have their different resolutions ready to go. And this time we have mistakes in them, but contrary to our previous webinars, they are not as big and blatant as they previously have been. They're more subtle. They're about the resolutions that are actually about student issues. I know we got some commentary about how that might be more beneficial for future webinars. We took that, we implemented it. So this is kind of like an upgrade in the level of a video game, right? Now it's really time to test these editing techniques, test your own techniques. We're going to be using the ones we learned here on the resolutions that they have to edit. And really, I want you guys to think hard about this and really see how these editing techniques can help improve resolutions and even get mistakes that are super subtle that we can't always discern. But with that, oops, that's too early. We're going to go into breakout groups right now. So I'll stop my share. And Jen, do we have those ready?
And they are open right now.
Awesome, cool. So we're going to go into 3. I'm going to be a leader, Victor's going to be a reader, and Paul will be a reader. And I hope you guys all employ the editing techniques that we learned previously. Thanks, guys. Presentation. Thank you, Jen. Let me go back to present. Cool. Alrighty. So let me just make sure everybody's back. Yep, we got all the participants in this room. Yeah, cool. We got everybody. All right. I hope you guys all had a fun time in your breakout room and just going over different resolutions with your respective breakout room leaders. I want to do a share out. So first, Paul, do you think you'd like to go over what your group had to say about the resolution you're writing? And I can stop sharing so you can share your resolution. Oh, he's connecting right now. So while he's doing that, Victor, would you like to share your resolution and the mistakes that your attendant or attendees noticed?
Yeah, no. So with our did you want me to share my screen or did you just want me to?
Yeah, if you want to share your screen, go ahead.
Up here real quick. So this group very active, and they were able to observe a lot of different mistakes that were in this resolution. Overall, it had good content in here, but it was a little wordy, and there was also some grammatical errors that were in there. One thing that they saw was there were 5 whereases as opposed to 4. So we made sure to get that changed. Then that also bumped up the therefore be it up to one more paragraph. They noticed that up here, the study that was mentioned in the actual resolution in one of the paragraphs was not cited. So we went in there and made sure that it was APA. It was an APA citation. And then I feel like I'm missing something here, but we also cut down one of the whereases because as part of it being a little bit wordy, we decided to group the first 2 whereases since they were pretty similar, talking about mental health issues being faced by trans students. So they were able to observe a lot of the different mistakes, and so it went really well in our breakout room.
I'm on mute. That's great to hear, Victor. Really happy to hear people are engaging. I don't know, you worked hard on that resolution, make sure that the mistakes were subtle and everything. So I'm happy they all got that. Cool.
It was an old one from an old Region 9 lad, but they worked hard. They were very hard on it.
Yeah, cool. I'm happy to hear that. Awesome. Thanks, Victor. Paul, are you with us?
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Do you think you'd like to share your screen, go over the resolution that you guys were looking at?
Yes, Chair. I'll try to the best with the ability because my Wi-Fi is a little bit spotty.
Okay, cool. Do you want me to make you a co-host again?
Yes, please.
Cool. I'll do that right now. Here we go. Oh. Hold on. Let me find you in the participants. But while I'm finding you want to just, here you go. Just talk about what you guys were going over preliminarily.
Yes, thank you. We're going over a past resolution which focused on mental health. There was a lot of statistics, a lot of information there. So just to show you how it originally, the original resolution filled with so much information. Throughout, we didn't actually get to finish it. We were just so focused on not just grammar, but like clearing it, making it more clear and concise, that some whereas were actually struck out because it seemed as redundant or not relevant to it. But I really enjoyed the participation in the group. I don't know if any members from the group actually want to chime in on what they recommended, but this is basically how it, at the end, how it looked, and this how it started off as.
Cool. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, does anybody from his group want to say anything?
I know one of our committee member, Keisha Mehta, was in there. So feel free and chime in.
Yeah, everyone did a really great job with grammar. We had a lot of grammar nerds in our breakout room, and then Paul was really sneaky with changing the association's names, so they were like association, like accreditation and whatnot. So yeah, so I think overall we did a pretty great job figuring out most of the subtle mistakes.
Cool. Awesome. That's great to hear. Well, I'll move on to my group. My group was definitely engaging, and I really appreciate that. Let me bring up the resolution we were working on. I'll bring it up in Word because that's what we mix it over to. We put it in Word to see if it would pick up anything, and it did. But Word kind of is over grammatically correct sometimes and doesn't really get the context. But let me share my screen. So cool, yeah. So the first thing we noticed, and the mistake that I wanted them all to get, was this last clause within my first whereas. To make sure their voices are heard at all levels of the organization as well as the CA state legislature. We realized that was already like a part of respect or serving their respective constituencies effectively. So we struck that, and we also, for the third whereas, we needed credible citation because, I mean, we in the SSCCC know it's $100 per month, but I didn't cite that. How are they going to know that that's true? I mean, they can't guarantee that it is $100 per month without a citation. And it was also kind of short. I know we like to emphasize brevity when we're doing this, but sometimes over brevity is not good and you can't understand everything too well. So those were the two mistakes we caught with that one. And then we really got into a great debate about whether or not what does our funding formula look like for compensating delegates? Because that's the main gist of my resolution, my mock resolution, like what we should increase regional officer compensation. And I kept saying delegates, and I just realized that now I meant regional officers for all those in my breakout group. I apologize. But when we're looking at things, how are we going to value their work? And we know we mentioned it's a volunteer basis, but we still counted up all the hours. If this is what they're working per week, then that's only like that's only $100 for like almost 40 hours of work a month. And that just doesn't really jive, I guess, is what a lot of people had to say. So I didn't have a good funding formula. And I really am happy that they noticed that because they struck at the argument too, not just the grammar and spelling, which is what I really wanted them to make sure we use that verbal editing. So a lot of people caught that. And then when we got into resolve, some people said since 10 to 15 hours, which would add up to like 40 hours a month for $100, that's too little. And our $300 was what I was arguing it should be increased to. They still said that was too little. And when asked why, people said, well, it doesn't have to be just dollar amounts. It could be like certain like benefits, like covering cost of textbooks to like help alleviate the cost of college. Because even though that's not what this resolution is aimed at, it's still, I mean, regional officers have to be students. So naturally, funding for different aspects of the college experience could be included in compensation. And also they recognize that the second resolve isn't really necessary because it pretty much just is the first resolve repeated in different language. But does anybody from my group want to add anything that I missed maybe? All right, I'm not hearing anything. I'll stop sharing. Well, I'm super happy that you guys all had a good experience with your breakouts and you got to experience and use some of the editing techniques we covered in this webinar. So I'm super happy to hear that. Let me go back to the presentation. So we had our share out. Now let's move on to future webinars. So we're wrapping it up. We only have one more webinar and it's mandatory for delegates. That doesn't mean that members of the public can't come. Feel free to come, but it is mandatory for delegates. So if you're a delegate, you have to attend this webinar. And it'll just be going over Parley Pro and debate training for resolution debate once we go to GA. And it'll be held March 26th at 4:30 p.m. over Zoom, obviously. And the resolutions committee will be putting it on. Super important you go to this because when you don't know how to properly debate resolutions and don't know proper Parley Pro during GA, Ramon, for this webinar, you don't have to like sign up. It's just like, I think we'll work out the details of that and we'll send out notices. But about signing up, you don't have to, but we can definitely make that an option just so people can remember it better. Yeah, thanks, Jen. But this will be the last one. If you're a member of the public, because members of the public can also engage in the debate during GA, feel free to come too. You would definitely benefit from this. But March 26th at 4:30 p.m. Remember that. Okay. And I really want you guys to take a picture of this. So the board of directors, we amended the resolutions timeline at our last board of directors meeting. And I take a picture of this, write it down, do whatever you have to do. Remember this because this is super important. We changed the submission deadlines. We had extended them so people have more time to look over their resolutions. And we realized that our original dates were unnecessarily too early. So original submission deadline, that's been pushed back to February 13th, still 2022. That'll be 48 days prior to General Assembly. First package dissemination will take all of the original submission and make a package of them so SBAs can review them. That'll be 43 days prior to GA on February 18th, 2022. The amended resolutions deadline, if you have amendments to your resolution that you want to submit, you got to submit those by March 2nd, 2022, 31 days prior to GA. And then we'll take all the amendments to resolutions, make a new amended package, which will be disseminated 24 days prior to GA on March 9th. We'll be sending out different promos for this, just telling people. I'm pretty sure we already have on Twitter and Instagram, and there was a send out on the listserv. So just remember these dates. Again, if you turn them in on the original dates, you'll just be submitting them early, but just know you have more time because we want to make sure our students have more time to write these resolutions. If there are any questions, we'll take them at the end of the webinar. But moving on, and also take a picture of this. This is the email. Since we are getting close to the submission deadline, use this email to submit your resolutions to. You just attach your resolution in the email. You can say, you don't have to address yourself or excuse me, identify yourself saying I'm so-and-so from this college. You can just attach a resolution. Make sure your name is on the author portion of the resolution though, just so we do know who you are and we can identify it. But yeah, just identify it. I don't know why I said you shouldn't, but identify your resolution, who you are, and that you are the author, and send it to this email. Send it in a doc, PDF, whatever. Just send it to this so we can file it all into a packet. And VP Campos, I will answer your question at the end of this webinar when we have time for questions, which I'm pretty sure is the next slide. But yeah, when you're ready to submit your resolution, send to this email. We will promote this through our social media just so everybody knows, but take a picture right now if you want. Super important to remember. Now questions. So VP Campos, you have a question?
I was going to say rhetorical. So for resolutions, what are things that we need to submit alongside not only just the written resolution?
Right. So just your, you got to make sure you have your sponsors on there. That's the main one that you need to have. Your sponsors need to be listed on your resolution. You have their author. So obviously you go author and then sponsors. Those are crucial. And also, thank you for reminding me of this. You got to have the minutes from the meeting that you got that resolution sponsored. They can be draft minutes, approved minutes. You have to have those minutes, or else we will not accept them. We covered that in our previous sponsorship webinar, which is still on the SSCCC YouTube. So if you want to go watch that again, I encourage you to do so to learn more about sponsorship. But make sure you have those sponsorship minutes. Thank you for reminding me about that. But yes, have those. Are there any other questions?
Can a group be regarded as an author?
That's another great question. So it states, I actually have my personal copy of the SSCCC resolutions packet and procedures. This question was actually asked to me today as well, to whoever asked that. Sorry, I can't see your name. But section 1 of resolution composition, or line item A, all currently enrolled California Community College students may author resolutions. Does not mention groups. So if you're saying your SBA wants to do one, or actually, oops, I may be wrong about that because the executive committee actually of the SSCCC had a resolution that they sent to the board of directors for sponsorship. So I'm going to walk that back. Actually, groups can send in resolutions. They just have to be, actually, let me get back to you on that, because we had one in the SSCCC. One of our committees had a resolution that they wanted to approve, and they are wanting to get sponsored by the board of directors, and we did sponsor it, and the author was the executive committee. But I'm going to get back to you that, because I've been giving out 2 different stories. So, and we'll make different posts about it. But just for right now, make sure it's a single student. That's a single California Community College student. And President Chavez, do you think you could elaborate on that?
Sure, I can. So any group of students are able to author resolutions. However, sponsorship will only be limited to the list that we have. So the amount of students that are able to author a resolution, we don't have an amount. You would just list the names of the names of the authors, whatever club, or even a student body association can author a resolution.
Thank you, President Chavez. I apologize for my ignorance right there. But so I hope that answers your question. And yeah, I'm pretty sure there's some in the chat as well.
Thank you.
So, yeah, for sure. So for citations, do they need to be in MLA format? They don't. They can be in whatever format. You can just like provide the link at the end, and just like have like, you know, forget what it's called. It doesn't have to be in any specific type of form. It can be, but it's up to your discretion. Just make sure that your links are cited and your sources are cited. And from Ruby in the chat with the great profile pic, what is the best type of source to cite that seems to improve the resolution / credibility? That's a great question. So obviously I'm a history major, so primary sources are always great, but what does that look like? Sources that, you know, just from websites that have like .org, .gov, try and stay away from .com and .net, because sometimes those are just companies who are trying to like get you to say stuff, and they don't really have like any merit behind them. They're just trying to profit from you viewing their website. So yeah, .edu, absolutely. And also just like official documents of stuff and such, not like things that are like from sites like that don't really have any credibility. And I know it's kind of like hard to answer that right now, but I would refer to you to our national associations as well. Just groups that aren't designated to earn profit, but those who are not like nonprofits, and other ones who aren't seeking profit as their only objective. But VP Campos?
Are we allowed to use newspaper sources?
Yeah,
anything
you
that's
can
not
use
like opinion, correct?
you can use anything you want as a source, but when it comes to like what'll be best, like Ruby asked, you really want to stick away from, I mean, opinion pieces are opinion pieces, right? So they're not like objective, they have their own opinion. So maybe it's not the best to look at that. They can just like amplify your argument, but ultimately you want to use sources that are like peer reviewed, the ones that are like generally recognized as objective material. Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to submit specific citations for your resolution to be accepted, but just make sure that if you want good citations, they should be from organizations or people who are not biased, essentially. Cool. Are there any other questions?
Can I reach out to you later if I have questions?
That is a great question, and that goes into our next slide. This is Connect with Us, so just look at our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, but also these are the emails of the people in the resolutions committee. They will help you with any answers. If you want to, they can direct them to me if they don't know them, and I can direct them to President Chavez if I don't know them, like I just did a couple minutes ago. But yes, so if you guys want to get these emails, feel free to do so. And Marco, you have your hand raised.
When's the next committee meeting?
Great question. So it's currently, we're in the works. It'll be sent out on the SSCCC listserv, but we're looking at January 31st if you want to come and ask questions during just public comment, but the agenda is forthcoming. All right, are there any other questions? Thank you, Ramon. Very much appreciate that. All right, cool. Well, this is the Connect with Us slide again, and I'll go back to the contact us slide again. These are Instagrams and just other social media handles. Contact us. But with that, this webinar is over. I want to tell you all so much how much I appreciate you coming. So great to see so many people excited to learn about resolutions and how they can better theirs. But thanks again for coming, and I hope to see you all either at our next webinar or at GA ready to debate resolutions.
Hey, thank you. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.